I think people knew he had said the N-word on many occasions, but a kind of mashup of how many times he said the N-word has come out. So there's obviously mass controversy on the internet. I personally think, and you and I might be on the same page about this, that this is bigger than Joe Rogan, and this is about more than the actual N-word. But first, for people that do not know what we're talking about, I want to just play the clip. So Indy Ari, hope I'm pronouncing that right.
India Irie.
India Irie. She is a longtime musician, very popular, has sold millions of albums. She, I guess, put together a mashup of, I think it was over 20 times that Joe Rogan has used the N-word. It was a mashup. So to be fair, we don't have the full conversations of every time he used it. But for those that haven't seen it, this is her video explaining why she wants off Spotify and showing this video of Joe Rogan using the N-word many times.
I want to leave a short message here about why I decided to ask my music be pulled off of Spotify. So check this out.
You know,
the thing.
Yes.
Saying the word
You've already said
is just like saying she's calling you a like this boy that he's a and starts calling him word. There should be a word like especially like the word that's our he says and then our starts saying how to use the word not the word word say and he couldn't say
I empathize with the people who are leaving for the COVID disinformation reasons, and I think that they should. I also think that Joe Rogan has the right to say what he wants to say. I also think that I have the right to say what I want to say. So as an artist who builds, Spotify is built on the back of the music streaming. So they take this money that's built from streaming and they pay this guy $100 million, but they pay us 0.003% of a penny.
So that was India Ari. She, put this together, and it's kind of taken a life of its own. We should say, Tim, within the context, obviously Rogan's been under fire for a lot of other stuff, particularly COVID misinformation on his show. Spotify, there was a campaign, I think a week ago, or time is a blur, to get him kicked off Spotify. For me, I can't speak for you. I think he has put out COVID misinformation. I don't think he should be removed from Spotify. I'm not for that, but I don't think he's beyond criticism either. But I wanted to separate the COVID stuff, and let's just get to this. What's your initial reaction? Because I saw you on your live stream. Again, this is not breaking news. A lot of people knew that he had used the N-word over and over and over again. But what's your initial thoughts to this video that was put out there and the significance as it comes to Rogan himself?
Actually, bro, I had not watched the India Irie part. I just watched the mashup. So this is new to me. My reaction to this is, I'm disappointed, bro. Yeah, she threw money into it. I didn't know she did that. I'd already know, like you stated, already know about Joe Rogan's history, that he's used some colorful language and has used the N-word a couple of times. I didn't know it was 20 times or whatever that number is. I had no idea it was that often. But I think it was a way to get a cheap laugh and have a cheap conversation at the expense of Black people, obviously. Even the clips that I saw of Joe using the word, he'd have guests on the show going, "No, Joe, don't do it. Don't do it, man. Nah. Even his friends, like not just random people he was interviewing, but like close friends of the show would be like, "Man, we shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this, Joe." And he would just kind of just bravely go where no man has gone before. So I think it was sort of a thing where he was trying to generate buzz for his show. And he was having a good time. And he also may have been high a couple of times because I know they routinely smoked weed on the show. That's not giving him a pass, though. So my reaction to this is, once again, I'm disappointed in India Irie that she made it about money. So what she's saying is, if she wasn't getting 0.003% of a penny per stream, she wouldn't give a shit what Joe Rogan said. Because that's what she said. She said because he's getting paid all this money to be on the platform, and she's not getting a lot of money to have her music on the platform, just take her music down. So I guess, I don't know, it just seems a little weird, bro. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. And I think also, and, I've been seeing the Twitter, honestly, first of all, put aside the N-word thing for a second. Joe Rogan's not beyond criticism. And I think people are conflating. Criticizing Joe Rogan with trying to censor Joe Rogan. I'm not trying to. I don't think he should be pulled off Spotify. I don't think you do either. If you do, but I don't think you do.
No, I don't.
But people, there's become this sickness online, and I've heard you talk about it, of cult worship, where we're just our preferred hosts, whether it's podcasters, YouTubers, whatever. We can't look at things on a case-by-case basis because we have to think in absolutes. And people are even saying, well, the media, CNN, MSNBC, they're obviously trying to get rid of him because they feel threatened by him. So that means we shouldn't actually look on the merits on any of these things. In my view, two things could be true. I don't think CNN, MSNBC, the corporate media is going after Joe Rogan on the N-word because they are so virtuous and care so much about black people.
What?
I don't think the corporate media is covering this at length because they just are indignant that this man has used the N-word 20-something times. They clearly are threatened by Joe Rogan. They clearly are threatened that, wait a minute, how is it that this guy got 11 million viewers and we're barely breaking 1 million or 2 million? So that could be true. But on the other end, in my view, and I'm not black, but I have traveled the country for 6 years. I have covered a lot of stories in primarily majority black communities. This conversation has come up where it has been explained to me. I mean, I have always said N-word. I would not use the actual term as a white person, but I've had these conversations with black people, and to hear how painful and how offensive it is for a white person to say it, it has always, it has just reinforced to me that there really is no appropriate context for a white person to be using the N-word. I guess you could say in historical movies or films, from the period pieces, slavery, civil rights movement. Obviously, the white characters are going to be dropping the N-word because it's about racism and slavery and oppression.
Right.
But to me, I don't get why you can't criticize Joe Rogan because he's wrong here while also I'm not calling for censorship. Nuance has been lost, in my view.
Yeah, I agree. It has been lost. And to say someone, is above criticism, that's crazy. That's some terrain we don't want to go into just because you like a guy. I mean, come on, man. Anybody's fallible. He admits several times he screwed up.
Yeah.
He said, hey, I fucked up, man. I shouldn't have done this. I'm wrong. So to defend him to the point where you're upset that Jordan and I may cover it, and believe me, no, I had a couple of black folks, more than a couple, maybe a handful of black folks on Twitter that didn't want me to cover it at all. Just because they didn't know how I was going to cover it, I guess. I guess they thought I was going to fall for it and be like, cancel Joe. Nah, man, like this is not, once I agree with you again that I don't think this is to help black people at all. In fact, it's insulting because we got real shit going on. And I would take having, I don't know, the water in Flint being clean. I would take having qualified immunity being gone. I would take reparations, a black agenda, some policies directed to black people to close the racial wealth gap. I would take that any day over canceling Joe Rogan or holding his feet to the fire. This is all politically motivated. And I think he's a threat to the establishment because he generates so much damn traffic and eyeballs and eardrums, and that's what it is. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
And I will say, we could play some of it now, just to be fair to Rogan. This was his apology.
I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. There's a video that's out that's a compilation of me saying the N-word. It's a video that's made of clips taken out of context of me of 12 years of conversations on my podcast, and it's all smushed together, and it looks fucking horrible, even to me. Now, I know that to most people, there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now. I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, when I would bring that word up, like if it would come up in conversation, instead of saying the N-word, I would just say the word. I thought as long as it was in context, people would understand what I was doing. Like that context was part of the clip we were talking about Red Fox. how Red Fox said that word on television in the 1970s and how times have changed so much since then. Or about how Richard Pryor used it as one of the titles of one of his albums. Or I was quoting a Lenny Bruce bit, or I was quoting a Paul Mooney bit, or I was talking about how Quentin Tarantino used it repeatedly in Pulp Fiction. Or I was talking about how a Netflix executive, ironically, used it because he was trying to compare it to another offensive word, and he said it out loud, and they fired him. Not calling anybody or just saying the word out loud. I was also talking about how there's not another word like it in the entire English language, because it's a word where only one group of people is allowed to use it, and they can use it in so many different ways. Like if a white person says that word, it's racist and toxic, but a black person can use it, and it could be a punchline. It could be a term of endearment. It could be lyrics to a rap song. It could be a positive affirmation. It's a very unusual word, but it's not my word to use.
I mean, it's 5 minutes long. You could watch the whole thing on Instagram. I want to move on to why I think it's deeper than Rogan, but I just wanted to get your thoughts. Because to me, when I listen to that, my thought as a white guy is, well, you could have done everything you just said, but just said N-word instead of actually saying the term.
Yeah.
Like you could have literally talked about why it's such a unique word, why, talk about other people, using it with just saying N-word rather, because you're not Red Fox, you're not Richard Pryor.
Here you go.
Your thoughts?
I agree. Nail on the head there, Jordan. Pretty good. Also, it needs to be mentioned that, the reason why you don't use the word, bro, is because they were yelling it at people while they dismembered them, like cut off body parts. It may be the last word. In fact, I know, obviously, people that were getting lynched and they were using that word for them, boy, it was the last thing they heard on this earth before leaving it. So it's not a good, we start really thinking about the context of the word. It's not just what was on Richard Pryor's album. It's also what was on the lips of overseers. And that's real talk. That's, so you start getting into an area, it's very uncomfortable for everyone. You know what I'm saying? So once again, as you pointed out, Jordan, he didn't have to use it. And I don't like the fact that he's not being totally honest. And look, I'm not going after the guy, but it sounds a little bit like he's deflecting. Like, come on, man. Like he's kind of offering, like, he's trying to placate people with the oh shucks and a little bit of the come on, man. It's just wrong, man. Yeah, we know other people use it. Like as you pointed out, he didn't have to use it to describe it. That's why there is an N word,
right,
to describe the actual word, so you don't have to go down that route. It was just to get publicity. It was just to entice viewers. I wish you would own it to that extent. That would be a full ownership of it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that he apologized. We could get into the reasons he did. I don't think it has nothing to do with he's under attack for other things too. I mean, let's not be naive that doesn't influence that he's been under attack over COVID and other things. I appreciate that he apologized, but it also, like, if within the first minute you're saying, well, it was taken out of context, but then you're saying, but there is no context that white person should say it, then you shouldn't be like, well, it was taken out of context. I just shouldn't have said it in any context. So Tim, I want to move on because to me, you and I are on the same page on the deeper level. So to me, this is beyond Joe Rogan. To me, CNN, MSNBC, all these corporate outlets that are on a crusade against Rogan, and they are. I think what Rogan has said and done is wrong, but I could also acknowledge I don't trust the corporate media's motivations. I don't think they're truly covering this because they're so virtuously against Joe Rogan. They see him as a threat, and if they can, they'd like him removed. But I don't see CNN. They're so aghast that he's used the N-word. I'm not watching CNN all day. I don't see the same fervor from CNN about Amir Locke, a 22-year-old black guy who was just executed by police in Minneapolis. Do you see that on CNN? Breonna Taylor was sleeping in bed. Amir Locke was a 22-year-old black man. The police in Minneapolis executed a no-knock warrant, similar to Breonna Taylor, and he didn't know who it was. They say, oh, well, he went for his gun. Very similar circumstance to Breonna Taylor. they're not saying shit. They're not worried about that racism. CNN, MSNBC, Tim, they're aghast at what Joe Rogan has said. You see any coverage that Joe Biden, the president, is giving police more money? I mean, the list goes on and on. I'll get off my soapbox. You don't see this consistency, but corporate media is upset about Joe Rogan using the N-word. Joe Rogan shouldn't have been using the N-word, but they will not cover actual systemic racism because they're part of propping that up.
Yes, absolutely. They're part of propping it up, and it is an insult, because as we said before, real issues are going on. Amir Locke, I covered it yesterday. Young man sleeping on the couch, and the cops startled the hell out of this young man. First of all, they got the wrong guy. It's not who they were looking for. So they're in the house where he is. He's on the couch under blankets. He can't see them. He's so asleep that they kicked the couch to wake him. And they're making all this noise. He reaches for his gun under the blankets. I think he didn't even see him, Jordan. So, I don't know if CNN covered it because I don't watch CNN. At least I try not to watch them. But
I can tell you they ain't covering it like they're covering Rogan.
Hell no, they ain't covering. But that's the thing, brother. So they care more about the words. So this is like a canard, right? So they want us to go after, and this is why it's insulting to us. To me, I speak for myself. They want us to care about this because they want to use it, right? They want to use it to take down Joe Rogan. I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of playing into that because I know that there are bigger fish to fry. I know there are bigger issues for us to focus on. And if they want to gaslight us and use our emotions against us in order to take down the guy who just won't go their way, well, hey, they could do that without our help. We need to stay focused on the issues that matter to us, and this Joe Rogan thing, let it sort itself out. I'm not sitting around obsessed with what Joe Rogan says on his podcast. As things come up, like you do, Jordan, I cover them or I don't. I usually don't because I got other shit to cover. I'm not too worried about it, but yeah, their hypocrisy is showing. If they really cared about black people and didn't consider us to actually be in words, maybe then they'd cover shit that really affects our communities and that we want to see covered. Because most black people do not give a damn about Joe Rogan's podcast or what he said last week.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.